Hello, my name is Stephen Gibney, and I'll be giving a presentation on survival gear for training aircraft at the Vermont Flight Academy. I'm a commercial airplane single engine landing with instrument, and I'm still currently a student pilot at Vermont Flight Academy. Today at the presentation on the agenda, I'll be discussing the inherent risk of flying, need for survival gear, post-crash survival, current installments of Alaska and Canadian law for survival gear, personal training, evaluation, and conclusion. The inherent risk. All of us pilots realize the inherent risk of going flying, some a little less than others with flying in suburban areas or cities. But we pilots up here in Vermont do fly in rural areas between New York, Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont. And we find ourselves with single engine airplanes over wilderness areas, usually uncontacted by other humans. This presents a greater risk, as we know. In the event of emergency, we find ourselves far away from any help. The pilots can increase their chance of survival if equipped with the proper gear in an environment such as these. The need for survival equipment is very great. Given the initial crash or forced landing, if we survive that, the pilots now need to be focused on getting out and getting help and surviving against the elements, what season is, summer heat or winter coldness. Essential items for survival would be sustenance, medical, hydration, fire, signaling, exposure, and navigation must be on board. These are all essential items to the basic needs of one trying to survive. Post-crash survival. Any pilot can contest to a stressful situation, how when it presents itself during an emergency. It's not something that anyone wants to find themselves in. Prior to the emergency or prior to the forced landing, that's very taxing mentally and emotionally, and after also physically. And the point of this is a quote from Doug Ritter. He's a professional aviation survivalist. The point of a large primary aviation survival kit is to reduce the demands on the survivors and increase their odds of surviving, and that is very true. And current law installments now are in Alaska and Canada. In Alaska, AS 0236110, Emergency Rations and Equipment section, is a law that every civil aircraft be equipped with survival pack containing items including, but not limited to, those on each list dependent of time of year and condition of flight. There are specific items to be carried for over land and for water, and additional equipment to be carried all flights between October 1st and April 1st. Basically saying they recognize that between October 1st and April 1st there is a greater inherent risk because most of Alaska is rough wilderness and very cold in the wintertime. And there's a lot of bodies of water, very remote areas of rivers and water, and you do need flotation devices in that regard and over the maritimes of Alaska. And in Canada we have similar laws. No person shall operate an aircraft over land unless there is a carried on board survival equipment sufficient for the survival on ground of each person on board, given the geographic area and the season, just like Alaska, and anticipated seasonal climate variations that provide the mean for starting fire, shelter, purifying water, and visually signaling distress. It's basically similar to Alaska, pertinent to the time of year you're flying and the remote areas you're flying in have the gear essential, the essential items you're going to need to survive in that climate. Survival pack composition, as you can see here, some basic things. These are some pretty complex kits. Medical, as far as bandages, gauze, alcohol wipes, bandages of every size, things like that, tourniquets, maybe something to make a splint with, a splint. Then you got knives, hatchets, maybe a folding shovel, some rations, some dried food, canned food maybe, fire starters, that includes butane lighter, waterproof matches, flint and stone, and a striker, and other assorted lighters. And hydration, purified water in a bottle. That takes up a little bit of space, but you can use smaller bottles. There's iodine tablets to purify water, straws, things like that with filters in them, and assorted other goodies like straw, wire, paracord, things like that can aid. And exposure, you got gloves and hats, like in Alaska or Canada. You're flying in colder climates. You may want to consider that with space blankets, wool blankets, things like that. So this is a good example of some pre-made kits that you can buy in the market today. And the personnel and training are a very important part of this process, especially here at the Vermont Flight Academy. I'm proposing to implement this survival kit in each of our 15 aircraft in our fleet, and pretty much everybody would be on board here at Vermont Flight Academy. The operations manager needs to know, needs to have take great part in the ordering process and the implementation, and as far as making sure the weight and balances are renewed and complied with in each plane. And they kind of oversee both the chief flight instructors, the flight instructors, and the students and the renters. It's basically a trickle down theory. They oversee everything. Down to the chief flight instructors, they need to make sure that the weight and balance of each aircraft are complied with, that their gear is properly stored in each aircraft. The flight instructors all have current and up-to-date training on survival use implementation, and that the CFIs know how to teach their students and renters how to use the packs. Flight instructors, they need to be good at surviving, use the survival pack, and to teach their student pilots. And of course the student pilots, they need to be regularly tested and go to the ground sessions for the survival packs and know how to use them. And same with the renters. The evaluation is slightly different on this. Truly the evaluation of a survival pack really can't be made until the unfortunate event of an off-field forced landing. Then we'll be able to see what worked and what didn't in the pack, what was needed, something maybe have been left out. But as far as pre-evaluation goes, CFIs, even the chief flight instructor and students, renters, all can take regular interval testing to make sure they know what's in the pack, how to get to it, how to use it, proper implementation. That will be something, and based on their scores, we can have a good judgment of our pilots ready to go fly on solo cross countries or over remote areas. And also certain items in the pack have expiration dates. There may be some food in there with expiration dates, water, medical things, medication. They have shelf lives, batteries. They need to be replaced regularly. We'll have a record on hand that we can keep updating and replacing as needed to ensure safety and efficiency. And finally, in conclusion, the chance of survival will greatly increase given that the pilot survived the initial crash. Having readily available medical equipment, fire starting tools, water, clothes, and other key survival gear could be the difference between life or death. That's self-explanatory. Any pilot can say that they felt a little nervous over a rural area and they know they didn't have anything but just a water bottle and a sweatshirt. To have extra gear will be very beneficial. And for us up here in Vermont, the Northeast can offer some scenic and unforgettable flying experiences, but also an inherent risk, like I talked about before, is greater and involved that known by most pilots who fly here. By installing these survival packs in our aircraft here at the Vermont Flight Academy, it gives quality assurance and increased chance of survival to our pilots, which in the unfortunate event of emergency crash landing, and forced landing, we hope that the pilots are okay, but we can give them a second chance with survival gear in our aircraft. Thank you.